to harness digital technologies that have been weaponized for non-violent ways, and to address the needs of the youth and marginalized communities. At the same time, important questions still linger, and we know that the United Nations is being challenged as never before. The United Nations today looks as if it is incapable of bringing about the very mandate that is built, it was constructed, it was formed, it was established to deal with. Today, with the war in Ukraine, the violence in the Middle East, the genocidal attacks on civilian people, we are really challenged, and to see to what extent can we bring back the institution, the only institution that we have. I want you to imagine with me, what would the world be without the United Nations? Who else has the commitment, has the convening power, has the ability to bring the world together? There is nothing at this moment other than this United Nations. And if we do not have it, the world will be missing a very important force, power, institution, dedicated, mandated to maintain peace. The overarching aim of the United Nations is to avoid a third world war. And so far, fingers crossed, it has succeeded. But we are sleeping towards a third world war, and if we do not really reinvigorate, restructure, and give power to this institution to fulfill its mandate, we will be missing a very important institution, a very important commitment, a very important resource, a very important platform that will be working on our behalf and in application of the very principles that Mr. Gandhi was for: non-violence, peace everywhere. I would not be exaggerating, I would not be telling you something you don't know. The world today is on the brink of some very important developments that threaten our existence and has made the world less peaceful and less vigilant and less prosperous and less just. First and foremost is the current simmering escalation of violence that the UN has not been able to control. And I'm talking here about the Ukraine war, the Palestinian issue, the Lebanese issue. And it's not only there, the fact that we have sanctions against people of Cuba, that we have troubles in Africa, whether you look at the Somalian situation, or you look at Sudan, or you look at Congo, or you look at Mali or Malawi, there is not a single place in this world that there is some problem going on, a simmering violence that could explode in our face, that's affecting many people and preventing them from living a peaceful and just life. And we have, to a great extent, greater threats coming out. You know, the possible war in Taiwan, or in the China Sea, or wherever you look, there is some simmering, some area that could explode in our face. Second is this unipolar world in which the United States and NATO dominated the world militarily, economically, politically, financially, has been challenged, and rightly so. And different arrangements and alliances are coming to the forward, to the world to deal with the areas that these dominant architecture where NATO and the United States has controlled the world. And now it is our responsibility to make sure that this unipolar world does not bring us to a confrontation, that we will be able to arrange a more balanced, a more equitable, a more diversified world in which every single nation will be able to live in peace and to be in conjunction with others to our collective survival and our ability to live in a peaceful world. Third, the global ecological crisis that has not really been taken as seriously as it should. And it could bring about a major catastrophe. We are already beginning to feel some of the raging consequences from fires, floods, incredible devastation that could come from, lack of diversity, the sea level rise. And these are human-made and cannot be solved except by human getting together and doing the right thing. The fourth is the rampant inflation that has destroyed the livelihood and lives of so many people and has impacted in a very substantial way the third world, particularly living under huge debt overhang. The high interest rate meant a massive transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich and has impacted the ability of these countries as they pay the debt service instead of devoting the resources to dealing with health issues, education, and giving a decent life to their people, mired in incredible, violent hunger and poverty. And the fifth one, the world economic system today, whether globally or nationally, is racked and rocked by massive inequality, inequities in every single way, in which we have billionaires who would spend millions of dollars going into space, flipping like monkeys, and spending billions of dollars instead of dealing with the homelessness of our people. And what's even more challenging is that we have now a fantastic chance with incredible technologies that we can use for peace and for improvement of our lives. Instead, it's being weaponized. Artificial intelligence, biodegrading and biotechnologies and geotechnologies and geoengineering. The trouble is that of these fantastic technologies that could improve our lives is being used now to hurt the poor, the weak, and is weaponized as an instrument of violence and as an instrument of destruction instead of an instrument for construction. And the COVID that has, to a great extent, ravaged our societies has not gone. And has exposed in a very fundamental way the inequities of the world. There were many countries in Africa and in Asia could not get hold of vaccination, were unable to access vaccination to deal with this threat, and hundreds of thousands have lost their life because these technologies were controlled and used only by the rich and the powerful and were denied to the poor who needed it probably more than everybody else. And these pandemics are not gone, and they are being transformed, and new variants are coming. And now, we got rid of COVID, or maybe, at least for some countries, we have mpox, we have other threats that are coming on. We will continue to be threatened until the world can get together and marshal these resources in a cooperative way that we can deal with these things wherever they are, and everybody will have equal access, and those who really cannot afford it will be able also to access it. Life is indivisible, humanity is indivisible, and if we do not tend to be and care for the poor, we will be failing our humanity. Eighth, we have the crushing burden of the third world debt, and it remains, it's still with us, and is mushrooming. The third world countries, the global south, pay billions of dollars in interest on this debt and remains huge. And most of the countries that have lent this money are wallowing with huge amount of resources and wealth that they have commandeered from the poor, from the people who could least afford it. And we still have with us, over violence, unacceptable interventions by the strong countries and having their fleets and bases everywhere. Imagine the United States has 1,300 bases, military bases around the world to intervene in the affairs of other countries, to subjugate, to subordinate other countries, and to use the violence and the military power as a way to disenfranchise these people from exercising their rightful right to inalienable freedom and independence. There exists today a very troubling situation where we really have to make sure that we don't intervene in other countries. The United Nations' basic fundamental principle is the integrity, territorial integrity, and the ability of people to live in peace and to prevent intervention in the affairs of others. We live in a world in which intervention is rampant, or in a world in which the powerful are always flexing their muscles in the face of the others, disenfranchising them from what they could possibly do and how they can choose their own course freely and independently. Let me go back and remind you the 5 major mandates of the UN. They remain today as alive and relevant and important as they ever were when the United Nations was formed in 1945. First and foremost, the overarching mandate, as I mentioned, of the UN is achieving world peace. Achieving world peace exactly as our person we celebrate today has worked and given his life for. World peace is number 1. Avoidance of a third world war remains the top mandate, the main objective, the main rationale, raison d'etre of the United Nations. And no time has this been more important and more necessary and more vital than it is today. Remember, the United Nations came on the wreckage of the League of Nations. And why did the League of Nations fail? Because its mandate was to prevent a second world war and fail. Let's all stand together, support this United Nations. Whatever it is, it remains the only institution, only hope that we have to bring this peace to this world and make sure that it remains vital, vibrant, and effective, because its failure is a failure of our humanity. The second important mandate is to promote economic development, sustainable economic development, not just to increase the GDP, but to improve the quality of what we produce, improve the distribution of what we have, so people are not just contributors, but also beneficiaries. The protection of human rights, the United Nations remains totally wedded to the protection of human rights and to support the humanitarian assistance. I tell you, I worked for the UN. I became acting executive secretary, acting under secretary general. I wasn't nominated for any big prizes or anything, not even nominated. Acting, yet I was really in a position to see the UN from the inside. There are lots of problems, no question about it. I mean, I was quite unhappy with the fact that the major UN institutions are where? The WHO, the World Health Organization in Geneva, the ILO, the International Labour Organization in Geneva, FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, where? In Rome, UNESCO, United Nations Educational Scientific Organization in Paris. Why not in the poor countries? The only one single institution in a poor country is the United Nations Environmental Program in Nairobi. There is need here to make sure that we foster development. We go to the people of the global south where they need us most. The United Nations is a department store that offers technical assistance for all countries, whether in the improvement of productivity in agriculture and food security, whether it is in the ability to negotiate better terms with some of the multinational corporations bent on world domination. The United Nations has really offered incredible services to so many countries. At one time it was really becoming a bit of a jungle. I remember I used to be in Beirut, which is the United Nations Economic Social Institution for Western Asia. And at any time, I will have people coming in from so many institutions without notice. And they were basically coming in doing the same thing. But today, the UN has reformed itself. In the past, we used to have United Nations reps, resident representatives, like the ambassador of the UN in every country. We changed it. We say we don't need reps, we need resident coordinators in a way that is a rationality, there is coherence. We can serve as one. And the United Nations brought it out. So there is hope. When we need to change things, we can. We did it, and we can do it again. And with the people supporting us, because ultimately we will be working towards a UN that's more democratic. Look, there is in the UN also the dedication to international cooperation and respect of international law, international humanitarian law. Let us respect the International Court of Justice. The International Court of Justice has now issued several verdicts. Nobody is applying them. The only way this International Court of Justice could work is when we, all the people of the world, we the people of the world, would work together and make sure that this institution has the respect, and that the respect is translated into action, and that when a United Nations International Court of Justice issued its statement, it's our obligation, each one of us, especially in democratic countries, to make sure that whatever they have really issued is in our name and will be implemented in our name. I don't want to really, I could speak for hours. I'm programmed to speak at least for an hour, but I will spare you that. I will speak no more than just a few minutes. I want to outline 5 major reforms we should do, could do, and we should begin today. First and foremost, we want the United Nations to be a democratic institution. It's not. Today, the UN is ruled by the 5 nuclear powers, and they do not represent the majority. So first and foremost, the Security Council should have a country like India. Why is India not a member of the international? People from Nigeria, from Indonesia, from Egypt, the huge, large countries, Brazil, they're not in. And if you really want a Security Council that represents the world, then it better be in proportion to the population of the world. And as long as it's not, this United Nations is dysfunctional, would not be able to serve us the way it should. The second thing, we should not have an institution where there is a single country that could scuttle and could thwart this United Nations from being active. No country should have a veto. This veto is basically and fundamentally an unjust, undemocratic expression of power. And we could do it. We could override this veto. And the way to override it would be to say that any time from the General Assembly, whose resolutions are not binding, we could make them binding with a majority. Either super majority, 3/4, but I prefer 2/3. Let's make it more possible. We can override unjust veto power of powerful nations at the expense of us. And we need to change this. We need to change the financial architecture of the world. The financial architecture today is that the rich have a lot more power, have a lot more voice, have more muscle to change things. We need to control, we need to tame this power, we need to adjust it, we need to adapt it so that it would be more in service our collective humanity and our collective peace and justice, or else we will be condemned to a life of violence. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Atif. And yes, we all have to rethink collectively. And